You know, there's something remarkable about the way life unfolds when you stop trying to drag it into your preferred order. We are so used to thinking of time as this fixed, linear progression, one thing after another, where we must hurry to get to the good parts before they slip away. But if you look closely, you'll find that nothing in your life has truly been random. Every missed bus, every strange meeting, every wrong turn that made you groan at the time, they've been threads in a far bigger tapestry you couldn't see from where you were standing. When we talk about God's timing, people often imagine it as a sort of heavenly schedule, a calendar in the sky where he's penciled in certain events. But it's subtler than that. It's more like music. The notes only make sense when they're played in the right sequence. And sometimes you can't rush to the next note without breaking the beauty of the melody. The reason you haven't met this new person earlier isn't because you were being punished or because you somehow fell in love before. It's because the song wasn't ready for that note. Maybe there was something you needed to learn first, some way in which your heart needed to soften, or perhaps they themselves had to go through a season of becoming who they were meant to be. There's a certain kindness in divine delay, because if something comes before you're ready, it doesn't feel like a blessing. It feels like a burden. You've probably experienced that before, getting something you thought you wanted only to find it crumbling in your hands because neither you nor the other person had the foundation to hold it. God's alignment is different. It's not just about meeting someone. It's about the meeting happening at the very moment when the encounter can blossom into something lasting. Think about how the sun and the earth dance. The sun doesn't shout at the earth to hurry up with its rotation. The earth doesn't tell the sun to rise a little earlier today. There is a rhythm, a grace, and it works precisely because no one's forcing it. That's the sort of rhythm at play in your life right now. There's a synchrony being prepared, not in your clock, but in your soul. And you may not even notice it at first. You might find yourself drawn into situations that seem ordinary, a conversation here, a shared glance there, and later you'll realize, that was the moment the pieces began to align. But for now, your task isn't to hunt for that moment. It's to be present enough to notice it when it arrives. Because timing isn't just about God placing them in your path. It's about you being awake enough to see them. So if you've been feeling that subtle restlessness lately, that curious stirring in your spirit, don't mistake it for impatience. It's more like the faint music before the curtain rises. It's not anxiety, it's anticipation. And the thing about anticipation is it's only sweet if you don't try to bite into it too soon. You see, the meeting that is coming will not feel like a rescue. It will not feel like someone swooping in to complete you. It will feel like two rivers converging, each strong on its own, but richer together. And the moment you meet will not be a result of your scheming or of theirs. It will be the inevitable point in the current where the waters merge, simply because that is where the flow was always heading. When the timing is right, you won't have to wonder. You won't have to force anything. It will feel less like an achievement and more like recognition, as if you were both remembering something you had forgotten. And so There is no need to grip so tightly to the calendar of your mind. Let the melody play. Let the earth keep turning. The meeting will come. It must come because it is already written into the song of your life. When the note arrives, it will be perfect. Before the meeting, before the spark, before the moment you look into someone's eyes and feel that unexplainable familiarity, there is a quieter stage, a season that often feels empty on the surface, but is in fact full of hidden work. It is the season of preparation. You see, we sometimes imagine love as something that simply happens to us, a lightning strike, a twist of fate. And while there is truth to that, there's also this other, less romantic reality. We must be able to carry what we are given. If your heart is still carrying the weight of old wounds, if your trust is bruised, if your sense of worth is tied to someone else's approval, then no matter how beautiful the new connection is, it will feel heavy instead of light. So life, God, the universe, however you wish to name it, arranges these pockets of time where you are asked to tend to yourself. And at first, it may feel like loneliness. You might think you're being forgotten or worse, punished. But this is not absence, it's cultivation. It's like a gardener leaving a field fallow for a season, allowing the soil to recover its strength, to be ready for the seeds that will be planted. Without that rest, nothing lasting will grow. In this time, you begin to notice the little things. Perhaps you realize that the way you used to give love was laced with fear, the fear of being abandoned, the fear of not being enough. Or you see that in the past, you lost yourself in someone else's life, forgetting your own passions and purpose. These realizations are not there to shame you. They're invitations to heal, to rebuild the parts of yourself that will allow you to stand whole in the presence of another. This preparation isn't about becoming perfect. Perfection is a myth that only breeds exhaustion. It's about becoming honest with yourself. It's about letting go of illusions, of seeing clearly where you've been hiding and daring to step into the open. Because in a true partnership, there is no need to wear a mask. And if you have to put on a mask to be loved, then you are loved for the mask, not for you. During this time, you may also find that certain people drift away. Old patterns fade. Places you used to go no longer feel the same. This is part of the clearing. Not everything from your past can come with you into your future, and that's not cruelty. That's mercy. The space that's being made is for the person who's on their way, and they too are going through their own version of this. Somewhere out there, they're untangling themselves from their own knots, learning their own lessons, becoming the kind of person who can meet you fully without pulling you back into the shadows you've already left. And as this quiet work unfolds, you begin to notice a shift. Maybe you laugh a little more freely. Maybe the idea of being alone no longer feels like a curse, but like a luxury. Maybe you wake up one morning and realize that you've stopped waiting for someone to rescue you because you've already begun rescuing yourself. This is the beauty of preparation. It transforms you without fanfare. You might not even realize how much you've changed until you're standing in front of the one who's meant for you, and you meet them not from a place of need, but from a place of abundance. You are not asking them to fill your emptiness. You are inviting them to share in your fullness. So if right now you feel as though nothing is happening, As though you're stuck in some endless waiting room, know that the room is not empty. It's a workshop. And every day, whether you see it or not, you are being shaped into someone who can recognize, receive, and sustain the love that is coming. When the door finally opens, you will be ready, not because you tried harder, but because you allowed yourself to grow. There's a subtle art to knowing when something is divinely aligned, and it rarely comes with flashing lights or grand announcements. More often, it arrives like the softest breeze, so quiet, so natural, you almost don't notice it at first. We tend to expect big moments to feel dramatic, but when God arranges something, it doesn't have to fight for your attention. It simply feels right. You might have experienced the opposite before. Connections that seemed exciting at first, but quickly turned into a puzzle where the pieces didn't quite fit. No matter how much you twisted or forced them, you felt tension, uncertainty, a constant sense that you were trying to keep something alive that was already slipping away. That's what happens when we chase something that isn't aligned. It drains you. But when the right connection comes along, there's a peace beneath it. Not the kind of peace that means you won't face challenges, because even divine connections have them, but the kind that assures you deep down, this is where I'm meant to be. There's no wrestling with your spirit. There's no internal warning bell. Instead, there's a sense of recognition, as though your soul is nodding and saying, Wes, I know this place. And the beauty is, this kind of peace doesn't just appear for you. It shows up for the other person too. You won't have to convince them of your worth or fight to be chosen. They will feel the same pull, the same quiet certainty. It's a mutual awareness that you've both stepped into something bigger than yourselves. One of the ways you can recognize divine alignment is by how effortless the connection feels in its beginnings. There's no need to overcomplicate it. Conversation flows naturally. Time spent together feels nourishing rather than draining. And there's a shared curiosity, as if you are both discovering the same story from different pages. This doesn't mean there won't be moments of awkwardness or learning. That's part of any human relationship, but you'll notice the absence of unnecessary struggle. You won't be working against the current, you'll be moving with it. Think of two rivers meeting, they merge smoothly, their waters blending without losing their own unique currents. Another sign is that the relationship encourages your growth rather than shrinking it. When something is aligned, it won't demand that you make yourself smaller to fit. Instead, it will invite you to expand. You'll feel inspired to become more of who you already are. You'll want to bring your best self forward, not out of fear of losing the other person, but because their presence calls something alive in you. And there's a deeper level to all of this, one that's less about feelings and more about resonance. Sometimes alignment shows up as shared values, a similar vision for the future, or even parallel life experiences that have shaped you both in ways you can't ignore. You may realize that the very struggles you went through were preparing you to understand each other in a way no one else could. Now, here's the thing. Recognizing divine alignment isn't about clinging to it the moment you sense it. True alignment doesn't require you to grab and hold on tightly out of fear. It might slip away. When something is truly meant for you, You can meet it with open hands. You can let it breathe. You can allow it to unfold at its own pace, trusting that the same force that brought it into your life will also sustain it. So when it comes, you won't need to overthink it. You won't need to ask 100 people for their opinion or scar the future for guarantees. You'll feel it in the stillness between moments, in the calm that sits beneath the excitement, in the knowing that this connection is not here to take from you, but to walk beside you. When the heart recognizes home, it doesn't knock, it simply walks in. The beauty of the right partnership is that it doesn't just give you someone to share life with. It changes the way you grow, not in the sense that you become someone entirely different, but in the sense that you finally have the space, encouragement, and inspiration to become more of who you already are. There's a kind of alchemy that happens when two people meet at the right time, in the right way. Their lives don't simply intertwine, they expand. Too often we imagine love as a place to rest, a warm, safe shelter where we can stop moving and simply exist. And while safety is important, a true partnership is not just a refuge, it is also a horizon. It doesn't allow you to shrink into comfort until you lose your spark. Instead, it gently pushes you forward, reminding you of the dreams you once tucked or even awakening ones you didn't know you had. When you meet someone who is aligned with you, they won't be intimidated by your growth. They won't feel the need to dim your light so theirs can shine brighter. Instead, they will take joy in watching you rise because they understand that your flourishing benefits you both. And you will feel the same for them. There will be no competition, no scorekeeping, only mutual investment in each other's becoming. It's an energy that flows both ways. They will challenge you when you settle for less than your potential, not to criticize, but to remind you of what you're capable of, and you will do the same for them. Growth won't come from nagging or pushing, but from a shared excitement about seeing each other step into new stages of life. Sometimes this growth shows up in very tangible ways. You might find yourself trying new things you would have avoided before simply because they make you feel braver. Or you may begin handling challenges with more grace because you know you're not alone in facing them. Other times the growth is quiet, almost imperceptible, like a subtle shift in the way you carry yourself or the way you trust more openly. It's important to understand that this kind of partnership doesn't mean you'll agree on everything or that you'll grow at exactly the same pace. In fact, there may be seasons where one of you moves ahead while the other lingers in a place of reflection or healing. But instead of resenting the difference, you'll hold space for it, because the purpose of the connection isn't to control each other's journey. It's to walk beside each other on it. There's something deeply reassuring about knowing that your partner sees both your present and your potential and loves you fully in both states. It frees you from the performance so many of us feel pressured to maintain in relationships. You can be ambitious without being afraid of outgrowing them, and you can be vulnerable without worrying that they'll lose respect for you. This shared growth is not limited to personal ambitions or emotional maturity. It's also spiritual. When someone's presence draws you closer to the divine, when their faith inspires your own, when they help you see meaning in the ordinary and the sacred in the everyday, that's when you know the connection is more than just romantic. It is a meeting of souls with a purpose that stretches far beyond the two of you. And perhaps the most profound thing about this growth is that it feels natural. It doesn't come from pressure or obligation or the desire to impress. It comes from being in an environment of love and respect so strong that you can't help but evolve. Just as plants lean towards sunlight without thinking, you'll find yourself leaning toward your highest self almost without realizing it. That is the kind of partnership worth waiting for, the kind where love and growth are inseparable, the kind where the person beside you isn't just part of your life story, but part of your life's becoming. To love and to grow together is the rarest and most beautiful thing we can do. When something sacred comes into your life, it is not enough to simply receive it. You must learn how to keep it alive. Too many people assume that because a connection is meant to be, it will take care of itself. But anything alive needs tending. A partnership, no matter how divinely orchestrated, will wither if it's left unattended. Love is not a trophy to be placed on a shelf. It is a living, breathing exchange that thrives on care. There's a quiet responsibility in this. It's not the heavy kind that makes you feel trapped, but the joyful awareness that you've been entrusted with something precious. And like anything precious, it must be protected, not from the world alone, but from the small, invisible forces that creep in unnoticed. Doubt, neglect, taking each other for granted. These are the slow poisons that undo even the most beautiful bonds. One of the ways you protect a connection is by keeping communication open and honest. Not the kind of honesty that swings like a blunt weapon, but the kind that listens as much as it speaks. When two people stop sharing, stop listening, stop being curious about each other, they don't just drift apart. They build walls they can't see until they're too high to climb. Prayer, or whatever form of intentional reflection you practice, is another way to protect it. Not just praying for what you want the relationship to be, but giving thanks for what it already is. Gratitude changes the atmosphere between two people. It shifts focus away from what's missing and toward what's already there, which has a way of multiplying the good. You also nurture a partnership by safeguarding your shared values. A relationship can survive disagreements, but it will struggle when its foundation is chipped away by compromises that betray what you both believe in. The world is full of noise, advice from strangers, temptations to compare, distractions that promise excitement but leave you emptier. Protecting the bond means knowing which voices to ignore and which truths to hold on to. And then there's the art of simply showing up, not just physically, but with your full presence. In the beginning, attention comes easily. Every word feels worth hearing. Every moment feels precious. But as familiarity grows, so does the temptation to drift into autopilot. Protecting love means refusing to let it become background noise. It's remembering to look at the person you love and actually see them, not just pass by them on the way to somewhere else. Nurturing also means knowing when to step back and allow space. Love can't breathe if you're clutching it too tightly. Sometimes protection is about trust, trusting that the person you're with is choosing you without needing constant proof. It's resisting the urge to monitor, control or force outcomes and instead giving the connection room to grow naturally, there will be storms and there will be days when you're both tired, distracted, or worn thin. Protection in those moments is choosing to remember why you began. It's speaking gently when frustration would be easier. It's holding on to the bigger picture when small problems try to make themselves look bigger than they are. This is what people often miss. Divine alignment doesn't mean divine maintenance. You can be given the most extraordinary connection and still its future will depend on how you tend to it day by day. Love's longevity isn't decided at the first meeting. It's built quietly in all the moments after. So guard it, feed it, make room for it to grow, speak life into it when the world tries to speak doubt. Protect it not out of fear that you might lose it, but out of reverence for what it truly is, a sacred trust between two souls. For when you care for what you've been given, you prove yourself worthy of keeping it. There will come a moment, even in the most divinely aligned connection, when you're tempted to second guess it. Not because something is wrong, but because fear has a way of whispering, what if it doesn't last? What if you're not enough? What if you open your heart only to watch it break again? These questions aren't signs of doom. They're simply the echoes of old experiences, the residue of times when things didn't work out. But here's the thing, if you let fear lead, you'll keep yourself standing at the edge of the water, never stepping in, always imagining what it might feel like to swim, but never actually feeling it. Faith asks for a different posture, and it doesn't demand that you ignore reality or pretend everything will be easy. It simply asks that you trust the hand guiding you, even when you can't see the whole map. Fear thrives on control, the idea that if you can just plan enough, predict enough, and protect yourself enough, you can guarantee the outcome. But love doesn't grow in that kind of soil. It needs the space of uncertainty, the openness to be surprised, the willingness to discover rather than dictate. You might be thinking, but what if I give my heart and it doesn't work? And the honest answer is, yes, that could happen, but is that a reason to keep your heart locked away? A heart that is never risked is a heart that never truly loves. You cannot experience the fullness of connection without stepping into the unknown. There is a quiet kind of courage in moving forward without a guarantee. It's not loud or reckless. It's steady, deliberate, the kind that says, oh, I know what I've learned, I know what I've healed, and I trust what brought me here. It's the courage of someone who understands that even if challenges come, they will meet them as a different person than they were before. The right connection doesn't remove uncertainty. It teaches you how to live with it in peace. You start to realize that your role isn't to make everything perfect. It's to show up fully and honestly in each moment. Fear keeps you asking, what if it falls apart? Faith shifts the question to, what if it becomes everything it's meant to be? That change in focus transforms the way you love. You stop holding back. You stop editing yourself to fit some imagined version of what might be safer. And instead, you step forward as you are, ready to meet whatever comes. There is also a kind of relief in surrendering control. When you release the constant need to manage outcomes, you begin to notice the small joys that were hidden by your anxious scanning of the horizon. The way their voice softens when they're tired. The way your laughter overlaps like it's always been meant to. The way a quiet afternoon together feels more like home than any building you've ever lived in. These are the moments that fear blinds you to. Faith, on the other hand, invites you to dwell in them. And this doesn't mean you abandon wisdom. Faith isn't recklessness. You still use discernment. You still choose carefully. You still honor your boundaries, but you stop letting fear be the final authority. You remember that the same force that aligned your path with theirs is capable of guiding you through whatever lies ahead. In the end, love is an act of bravery, not because it guarantees a perfect ending, but because it opens you to a depth of life you could never touch by playing it safe. To move forward in faith is to choose presence over protection, a joy over control, and possibility over the illusion of certainty. And so you take the step, not because you've been promised an easy road, but because you've been promised a meaningful one.